When Elon Musk spotted a dirty homeless man in the crowd of a prestigious Tesla event, no one could have predicted what would happen next. In front of hundreds of shocked onlookers, he suddenly called him out, and what followed left the entire room in stunned silence. Rush hour traffic crawled under a fading sun as a sleek black Tesla limousine glided through the city streets. Inside the vehicle, Elon Musk sat in the plush leather back seat, his eyes fixed on the tablet in his hands. The soft glow of the screen illuminated his face as he reviewed his notes for the upcoming speech, his brow furrowed in concentration. The chauffeur, a middle-aged man named Robert, expertly navigated the congested roads, his gloved hands steady on the wheel. As they approached the grand event venue, the energy in the air seemed to shift. The sidewalks were teeming with people, all moving with purpose towards the main entrance. Security personnel in crisp black suits formed a perimeter around the building, their eyes scanning the crowd with practiced vigilance. Robert's gaze flicked to the rear-view mirror, catching a glimpse of his distinguished passenger. "Mr. Musk," he said, his voice calm and professional, "I'm noticing quite a crowd at the main entrance. With your permission, I'd like to approach from the rear of the building. We'll use the VIP entrance and parking area." Musk looked up from his tablet, his eyes meeting Robert's in the mirror. He nodded, appreciating the chauffeur's foresight. "Good call, Robert, let's do that." The limousine smoothly turned down a quieter street, the sounds of the excited crowd fading behind them. As they approached the VIP entrance, the atmosphere became noticeably calmer. The exclusive parking area was nearly empty, save for a few high-end vehicles belonging to other VIPs who had arrived early. Robert brought the car to a stop directly in front of the VIP entrance. With practiced efficiency, he exited the vehicle and made his way around to Musk's door. As he opened it, Natalie, Musk's assistant, emerged from the front passenger seat. Her tablet was already in hand, her fingers flying across the screen as she pulled up the evening's schedule. "Mr. Musk," Natalie began, her voice crisp and professional, "we have about 30 minutes before you're due on stage. The organizers have requested a brief sound check, and then you'll have some time to relax in the green room before your speech." Elon nodded, his mind still partially focused on the key points of his presentation. As he stepped out of the car, 2 personal security guards materialized on either side of him, their eyes constantly scanning the surroundings. The group began to move towards the VIP entrance, their steps echoing in the quiet of the exclusive area. However, as they neared the door, an unexpected sight caught their attention. Huddled against the wall beside the entrance was a homeless man. His clothes were tattered and dirty, a grimy jacket barely providing warmth in the cool evening air. But what stood out most was the worn Tesla cap perched atop his unkempt hair. The security team immediately tensed, moving to create a human barrier between Musk and the unexpected visitor. Their hands hovered near their concealed weapons, ready to act at a moment's notice. The homeless man, seeming to sense the sudden tension, slowly rose to his feet. His movements were careful, almost apologetic, as he faced the group. "Mr. Musk," he said, his voice rough but surprisingly clear, "please, could you stop for just a moment?" The security team exchanged quick glances, their bodies coiled and ready to intervene. Natalie paused mid-sentence in her review of the investor list, suddenly aware of the unfolding situation. Elon, however, found his attention caught by the man's Tesla cap. There was something about the juxtaposition of the high-tech brand and the man's disheveled appearance that stirred his curiosity. He reached for his wallet, assuming the man was looking for a handout. But the homeless man surprised them all. "I don't want your money, sir," he said, a hint of pride in his voice. I was wondering if I could trouble you for a handshake and maybe an autograph on my cap." The request hung in the air for a moment, unexpected and somehow poignant. The security team remained tense, one of the guards speaking in a low, urgent tone. "Mr. Musk, this person shouldn't be here. The VIP entrance is a restricted area. He could be dangerous." Elon held up a hand, silencing the guard. His eyes never left the homeless man as he studied him more closely. The man's frame was thin, almost frail, and his face bore the marks of a hard life with purple bruises and wounds. His clothes were dirty and worn, his shoes barely holding together. Yet there was a dignity in the way he held himself, a spark of something in his eyes that spoke of better days. "It's okay," Musk said to his guards, his voice calm but firm. "He doesn't seem dangerous to me." The guards exchanged glances but stepped aside, allowing Musk to approach the homeless man. Elon reached into his suit pocket and pulled out a pen. With a gentle touch, he took the Tesla cap from the man's head and signed the back of it with a flourish. As he handed the cap back, Musk extended his hand. The homeless man's eyes widened slightly, a look of gratitude washing over his weathered features. He grasped Musk's hand firmly, the handshake lasting a moment longer than usual. "Thank you, Mr. Musk," the man said, his voice thick with emotion, "and good luck with your speech tonight. I know you'll do great things." Elon nodded, a small smile playing at the corners of his mouth. There was something about this brief interaction that felt significant, though he couldn't quite put his finger on why. With a final nod of respect, Musk turned and followed his team through the VIP entrance, leaving the homeless man standing alone in the growing twilight. As the door closed behind them, Natalie resumed her briefing, and the security team relaxed slightly. But Elon's mind lingered on the encounter, a nagging feeling that there was more to this story than met the eye. The VIP entrance led directly into a maze of well-lit corridors, each turn bringing them deeper into the heart of the venue. The sounds of the gathering crowd outside faded, replaced by the quiet efficiency of backstage preparations. Staff members with headsets hurried past, nodding respectfully as they recognized Musk and his entourage. Finally, they arrived at a door marked Preparation Suite. Natalie stepped forward, opening it to reveal a luxuriously appointed room. The space was a hive of activity, with makeup artists and stylists arranging their tools with practiced precision. The air was filled with the subtle scents of high-end cosmetics and the soft hum of conversation. As Elon entered, the room's occupants paused momentarily, their eyes widening in recognition before they quickly resumed their professional demeanor. A makeup artist, a petite woman with vibrant blue hair, stepped forward with a warm smile. "Mr. Musk, I'm Sophia. I'll be doing your makeup for tonight's event. Please have a seat," she said, gesturing to a comfortable chair in front of a well-lit mirror. Elon nodded, settling into the chair as Sophia began her work. Her movements were swift and sure, applying foundation with a light touch. As she worked, Elon's mind drifted back to the encounter outside. There was something about the homeless man that nagged at him, a sense of familiarity he couldn't quite place. His thoughts were interrupted by the arrival of Chris Walters, his business partner and the event's sponsor. Chris burst into the room with his characteristic energy, his presence immediately lightening the atmosphere. "Elon, my friend," Chris exclaimed, clapping Musk on the shoulder. "Ready to wow the masses?" Elon chuckled, careful not to move too much as Sophia continued her work. "As ready as I'll ever be, Chris. How's it looking out there?" Chris settled into the chair next to Elon, another makeup artist immediately beginning work on him. "It's a full house. We've got investors, fans, and even a few environmental advocates in attendance. Should be an interesting crowd." As the makeup artists continued their work, Chris studied Elon's reflection in the mirror. His brow furrowed slightly as he noticed a tension in his friend's shoulders, a tightness around his eyes that wasn't usually there. "You look especially nervous today," Chris observed, his tone softening. "Everything okay?" Elon hesitated for a moment before responding. "It's an important moment, Chris. With the investors, fans, and environmental advocates all in one room, there's a lot riding on this speech." Chris nodded understandingly. There will always be critics, especially from the environmentalist camp. It's basically their job to keep us on our toes. He grinned, trying to lighten the mood. "Hey," he called out to Sophia, "think you can work some magic with that brush of yours and make Elon look less nervous?" Sophia laughed good-naturedly, but Elon's smile didn't quite reach his eyes. As Chris moved to the styling section, Elon suddenly called after him. "Chris, did you see a homeless man outside in the VIP parking area when you arrived?" The question caught Chris off guard. He turned back, a puzzled expression on his face. "A homeless man? No, I didn't notice anyone in the VIP area when I arrived. Why do you ask?" Elon shook his head slightly, careful not to disrupt Sophia's work. I'm not sure. Something about him seemed familiar, but I couldn't quite place it. He was in a restricted area too, with a beaten-up face. It just struck me as odd. Chris's brow furrowed in concern. Try not to overthink it, Elon. You're probably just feeling the pressure of the upcoming speech. Focus on what you need to do tonight. Elon nodded, but Chris's words didn't fully quell the nagging feeling in his gut. As Chris approached the styling section, Elon made a decision. I think I'll skip the stylist, he said, glancing at his reflection. The suit I chose should be fine. Sophia stepped back, giving Elon a final once-over. You look impeccable, Mr. Musk, ready for the spotlight. Just then, Natalie appeared in the doorway, her ever-present tablet in hand. Elon, we have 15 minutes until showtime. We need you to stand by behind the stage soon. She paused, taking in his appearance. Are you ready? Elon stood, straightening his tie and taking a deep breath. As ready as I'll ever be, Natalie. Let's do this. As they prepared to leave the preparation suite, Elon cast one last glance at his reflection. He looked every inch the successful tech mogul, but behind his eyes, the memory of the homeless man with the Tesla cap lingered, and he wasn't sure if he could get him out of his mind tonight. The corridors backstage were a flurry of activity as Natalie and the event organizer escorted Elon towards the staging area. Staff members rushed past, their headsets crackling with last-minute instructions. The air was thick with anticipation, the muffled sounds of the gathering audience seeping through the walls. 10 minutes to showtime, Natalie announced, her eyes flicking between Elon and her tablet. The pressure was palpable, each passing second bringing them closer to the moment Elon would step into the spotlight. As they rounded a corner, Elon suddenly felt an uncomfortable pressure in his bladder. He hesitated, causing Natalie to look up in concern. Everything all right, Elon? She asked, her brow furrowing slightly. I need to use the bathroom, Elon admitted, a hint of embarrassment in his voice. Natalie's expression tightened. We're cutting it close as it is. You need to be in position behind the stage in 5 minutes. The private restroom is quite a way back. Elon shook his head. I can't wait. Being uncomfortable on stage would be worse than being a little late. One of the security guards, overhearing the exchange, stepped forward. Sir, there's a public restroom in the ticketing area. It should be empty now that most attendees are in the main hall. Natalie hesitated, clearly torn between maintaining the schedule and accommodating Elon's needs. Finally, she nodded. All right, but we need to be quick. We're down to 9 minutes. The group changed direction, moving swiftly through a side corridor that led to the public areas of the venue. The usual bustle of the ticketing area was eerily absent, their footsteps echoing in the empty space. As they approached the restroom, Natalie hung back with the security team. We'll wait here, sir, she said, her tone making it clear that time was of the essence. Elon pushed open the door to the men's room, the harsh fluorescent lighting a stark contrast to the warm glow of the backstage area. As his eyes adjusted, he froze in surprise. There, hunched over one of the sinks, was the homeless man from earlier. His movements were frantic, almost desperate, as he scrubbed at his face and hands. The man's reflection in the mirror showed a pained expression, his eyes squeezed shut as if trying to block out the world. For a moment, Elon stood motionless, unsure how to proceed. The homeless man, sensing another presence, looked up. Their eyes met in the mirror, and the man's face transformed from pain to panic. I'm sorry, I'm so sorry, the man babbled, his words tumbling out in a rush. I shouldn't be here. I'll go. I'm leaving right now. Before Elon could respond, the man was pushing past him, his movements jerky and nervous. Elon tried to call out to ask if he was all right, but the man was already gone, the door swinging shut behind him. Natalie's voice came from outside. Elon, is everything all right in there? I'm fine, Elon called back, his voice sounding distant even to his own ears. He approached the sink where the homeless man had been standing, and what he saw made his blood run cold. Streaks of red marred the white porcelain, and there, nestled against the drain, was a broken tooth. With a mixture of concern and curiosity, Elon carefully wrapped the tooth in a piece of tissue paper and slipped it into his pocket. His mind raced with questions. What had happened to the man? Why was he in so much pain? The urge to follow, to find out more, was almost overwhelming. But Natalie's earlier words echoed in his mind. They were running out of time. With a heavy sigh, Elon quickly used the facilities and washed his hands, his eyes continually drawn to the blood-stained sink. As he emerged from the restroom, Natalie's questioning look was tinged with impatience. Elon's gaze lingered down the corridor where the homeless man had disappeared, prompting one of his security guards to speak up. "Sir, that was the same man from the parking lot, wasn't it?" Elon nodded slowly. Yes, it was. The guard's hand moved towards his earpiece. "Do you want us to find him, sir?" For a moment, Elon was tempted to say yes. The mystery surrounding the man, the blood in the sink, the broken tooth in his pocket, it all nagged at him, demanding answers. But the weight of responsibility pressed down on him. He couldn't be late. Thousands of people were waiting, investors were counting on him, and the future of sustainable energy hung in the balance. He straightened his tie and cleared his throat. "No need," he said, his voice firmer than he felt. "Let's go, Natalie. We have a speech to give." As they made their way back towards the stage, Elon couldn't shake the feeling that he was missing something important. He hoped that somehow their paths would cross again. Perhaps after the event, he could look into the matter further. The backstage area was a hive of activity as they approached. Technicians scurried about, making last-minute adjustments to equipment. The muffled roar of the waiting crowd seeped through the heavy curtains, a reminder of the expectations that awaited him. Chris was there, his face alight with excitement. "There you are," he exclaimed, clapping Elon on the shoulder. "I was beginning to think you'd gotten cold feet." Elon managed a small smile. "Just a quick detour. How's it looking out there?" "Packed house," Chris replied. "They're eating up the pre-show stuff, but everyone's really here for you, my friend." A technician approached, a sleek wireless microphone in hand. "Mr. Musk, if you could just stand still for a moment, I'll get you mic'd up." As the technician worked, fitting the microphone and running a quick sound check, Elon tried to center himself. He pushed thoughts of the homeless man to the back of his mind, focusing instead on the key points of his speech: the future of sustainable energy, Tesla's latest breakthroughs, the potential to change the world. These were the things that mattered right now. Chris leaned in, his voice low. "You've got this, Elon. Just remember, they're here because they believe in you and what Tesla stands for. Knock 'em dead." Elon nodded, grateful for his friend's support. "Thanks, Chris. I'll see you out there." With a final thumbs up, Chris disappeared, leaving Elon alone with his thoughts. The stagehand's voice cut through his reverie. 2 minutes, Mr. Musk." Taking a deep breath, Elon climbed the steps to the stage entrance. The bright lights beckoned, and he could feel the energy of the crowd pulsing on the other side of the curtain. This was it. The moment to put aside personal concerns and step into the role of visionary leader. As the announcer's voice boomed through the speakers, introducing him to thunderous applause, Elon squared his shoulders. He raised his hand in greeting as he emerged from behind the curtain, the professional mask sliding firmly into place. The sea of faces before him blurred into a single entity, all eyes fixed on him with rapt attention. Elon approached the podium, his steps measured and confident. As he began to speak, his voice strong and clear, he found himself scanning the crowd. Despite his best efforts to focus, a part of him was still searching for a familiar face in worn clothes and a Tesla cap. "Good evening, ladies and gentlemen," Elon began, his voice carrying across the hushed auditorium. "Thank you all for being here tonight. We stand on the cusp of a new era in sustainable energy, and I'm excited to share with you Tesla's latest breakthrough in battery technology." As he launched into his presentation, Elon felt the familiar rush of passion for his work. The words flowed smoothly, painting a picture of a future powered by clean, efficient energy. Yet even as he spoke of revolutionizing the world's power systems, a small part of his mind remained preoccupied with the mystery of the homeless man and the broken tooth in his pocket. As Elon concluded his presentation, a wave of applause washed over the auditorium. The energy in the room was palpable, a mixture of excitement and anticipation for what was to come. Stagehands quickly moved onto the platform, efficiently arranging a comfortable seating area with plush chairs and a stylish coffee table. The lighting shifted subtly, creating a more intimate atmosphere for the interview portion of the evening. Chris joined Elon on stage, their matching energy projecting confidence and camaraderie. As they settled into their seats, the audience's murmur died down, everyone eager to hear more. Chris leaned forward, a warm smile on his face. "Well, Elon, that was quite the presentation. I think I speak for everyone here when I say we're all excited about Tesla's future plans. Can you tell us more about how these advancements in battery technology will impact the market?" As Elon began to respond, discussing the potential ripple effects across various industries, he found his attention divided. His eyes continued to scan the audience, particularly the back sections near the multimedia setup. The professional in him maintained the flow of conversation, but a part of him was still searching. "And with these improvements in energy density," Elon was saying, "we're looking at potential applications far beyond just the automotive industry. We're talking about revolutionizing home energy storage, grid stabilization, even portable power solutions for remote areas." Chris nodded enthusiastically. "It's truly remarkable how far we've come. Speaking of progress, Elon, many of our audience members are curious about the human side of Tesla. How do you balance the drive for innovation with the needs of your workforce?" As Elon formulated his response, something caught his eye. There, in the back of the auditorium, was a familiar figure. The homeless man from earlier was seated quietly among the crowd, watching him with a wide, sweet grin. The sight triggered something in Elon's memory, fragmented images of a funeral service, or perhaps a hospital visit. The recollection remained frustratingly incomplete, but he was certain it involved one of his employees. "Elon," Chris's voice brought him back to the present. "You were saying about balancing innovation and workforce needs?" Elon blinked, quickly regathering his thoughts. "Yes, of course. At Tesla, we believe—" As he spoke, Elon's mind raced. The connection between the homeless man and his fragmented memories nagged at him. He couldn't be 100% sure, and he couldn't remember whose funeral it was, but the feeling of importance wouldn't leave him. The interview continued, covering topics from production challenges to future projects. Elon maintained his professional demeanor, but his eyes kept drifting back to the homeless man in the audience. As the session progressed, he noticed the man beginning to move towards the exit with several other attendees. "Well, folks," Chris announced, "we've reached our last question of the evening." He turned to Elon, a glint in his eye. "You've highlighted that Tesla's success is built on the human stories behind the company, the employees who have contributed to its vision. How do you ensure your commitment to innovation and sustainability extends not just to natural resources, but also to human resources? And if you could deliver a message to your team of employees right now, what would you say?" The timing seemed almost providential. Elon knew he couldn't let the man disappear again. In a split-second decision that would change the course of the evening, he made a bold move. "Before I answer that, Chris," Elon said, his voice carrying clearly through the auditorium, "I'd like to address someone in the audience." He pointed directly at the departing homeless man. "Sir, in the back with the Tesla cap, could you please stop for a moment?" The entire auditorium froze, a collective intake of breath as all eyes turned to follow Elon's gesture. The homeless man pointed to himself in confusion, creating a moment of intense focus. "Yes, you, sir," Elon confirmed, his voice softer but still amplified by the microphone. "I recognize you. You were a family member of one of Tesla's most treasured ex-employees, weren't you?" A murmur rippled through the crowd as the homeless man stood still, caught in the spotlight of attention. The atmosphere in the hall transformed, charged with a mixture of curiosity and anticipation. Elon had just veered dramatically off script, and everyone, from the audience to the event organizers, was hanging on his every word. As Elon began to speak about the man's connection to Tesla, his voice carried genuine emotion. He acknowledged the man's relationship to one of the company's most valued former employees, though he didn't mention names or specifics. The audience remained captivated by this unexpected turn of events, the scheduled interview forgotten in the wake of this human moment. "Ladies and gentlemen," Elon said, his voice carrying clearly through the auditorium, "the man I've just asked to stop is more than just an attendee at our event tonight. He represents a part of Tesla's history, a reminder of the human stories behind our company's success. The audience remained captivated, many leaning forward in their seats, eager to hear more about this unexpected turn of events. Elon continued, his words measured and sincere. While I can't share all the details out of respect for privacy, I want you all to know that Tesla's commitment to innovation is matched only by our commitment to the people who make that innovation possible. Sometimes life takes unexpected turns, and we find ourselves facing challenges we never anticipated. But the Tesla family, and I do mean family, stands together, even long after someone has left our immediate circle. As Elon spoke, Natalie moved swiftly through the crowd towards David. Her practiced efficiency helped maintain the moment's dignity while guiding him toward the backstage area. The audience watched in respectful silence as this scene unfolded, many visibly moved by the unexpected display of recognition and compassion. Sensing the shift in energy, Elon smoothly handed the stage back to Chris. I apologize for the interruption, Chris. To answer your question about our commitment to our team, what you've just witnessed is a part of that. Tesla is more than just a company. It's a family. And sometimes family members need our support, even long after they've left our immediate circle. Thank you, Elon, Chris said, his voice warm and professional. I think I speak for everyone here when I say that we're touched by this moment of recognition. It's a powerful reminder of the human element behind Tesla's groundbreaking technology. Turning to the audience, Chris continued, Ladies and gentlemen, while we hadn't planned for this particular moment, I believe it serves as a perfect conclusion to our evening. It showcases not just Tesla's technological vision, but also its heart. Let's give a round of applause for Elon Musk and for the spirit of compassion we've witnessed here tonight. The applause that followed was thunderous, a mixture of admiration for Elon's presentation and emotional response to the unexpected human moment they had just witnessed. As the sound washed over him, Elon nodded his thanks to the audience before making his way off the stage. The formality of the event gave way to something more personal and urgent as Elon descended the backstage stairs. His mind was already focused on the coming conversation, questions forming rapidly about David's situation and how he had ended up in such dire circumstances. Security cleared a path as Musk made his way to his personal backstage room, where Natalie waited with their unexpected guest. The contrast between the glamour of the event and David's worn appearance became even more striking under the bright backstage lights. As Elon entered the room, David stood up, his posture a mix of nervousness and dignity. Despite his disheveled appearance, there was a spark of something in his eyes. Hope, perhaps, or the remnants of the man he used to be. Mr. Musk, David began, his voice rough but clear. I'm David Marshall. I don't know if you remember me, but... The name hit Elon like a thunderbolt, connecting the final pieces of his earlier memories. David Marshall, father of Jason Marshall, one of Tesla's brightest young engineers who had passed away 5 years ago. The funeral Elon had been trying to recall suddenly came into sharp focus. Of course, Mr. Marshall, Elon said, extending his hand. I remember you. I remember Jason. Please, sit down. We have a lot to talk about. As David Marshall sank back into his chair, the weight of years of hardship visible in every movement, Elon knew that this conversation would be the beginning of something significant. The stage was set for a story of loss, redemption, and the unexpected ways that lives can intersect and change each other. Mr. Marshall, Elon began, his tone gentle but direct, I have to admit I'm shocked to see you in this state. The last time we met, well, it was under very different circumstances. Can you tell me what's happened since then? In the privacy of the backstage room, David Marshall's hands, rough and weathered, clasped and unclasped in his lap as he gathered his thoughts. His voice, though rough from years of hardship, carried a quiet dignity as he recounted the events that had led him to this moment. Mr. Musk, David began, his eyes meeting Elon's with a mixture of gratitude and pain, I'm not sure where to start. The last time we met, well, it was a different world. Elon nodded encouragingly, his full attention focused on David. Take your time, Mr. Marshall. We're in no rush here. David took a deep breath, steeling himself for the emotional journey he was about to embark upon. As you know, my son Jason was an engineer at Tesla. He was so proud to be part of your company, Mr. Musk. He believed in the mission, in the future you were building. A sad smile flickered across David's face as he remembered his son's enthusiasm. Jason was always a bright kid, but working at Tesla, it lit a fire in him. He'd come home talking about battery efficiency and sustainable energy grids like they were the most exciting things in the world. Elon nodded, a fond memory of the young engineer surfacing. I remember Jason was exceptional. His work on our energy storage systems was groundbreaking. David's eyes glistened with unshed tears. He was diagnosed with cancer 5 years ago. It was aggressive. We barely had time to process it before... His voice trailed off, the pain of the memory still raw. I remember the funeral, Elon said softly. Jason was well loved at Tesla. His loss was felt deeply by the entire team. David nodded, taking a moment to compose himself before continuing. After Jason's death, things fell apart quickly. My wife, Martha, she couldn't handle the grief. 3 months after we lost Jason, David's voice broke, the words catching in his throat. Elon leaned forward, his face etched with concern. Mr. Marshall, if this is too difficult... But David shook his head, determined to share his story. No, I need to say this. Martha took her own life. The pain of losing our only child, it was too much for her. The room fell silent, the weight of David's words hanging heavy in the air. Natalie, standing quietly in the corner, discreetly wiped away a tear. David continued, his voice growing stronger as he pushed through the painful memories. I was a financial analyst, you know, had a good career, a comfortable life, but after losing Jason and Martha, I just couldn't function anymore. I turned to alcohol, trying to numb the pain. He let out a bitter laugh, shaking his head at the memory of his descent. It's amazing how quickly things can spiral out of control. The drinking led to poor decisions, particularly with gambling. I thought I could win back what I was losing, but, well, you can guess how that turned out. Elon listened intently, his mind racing with the implications of David's story. Here was a man who had once been successful, reduced to homelessness by a series of tragic events and poor choices born of grief. David's hand moved to touch the worn Tesla cap on his head, his fingers tracing the faded logo. This cap, it's all I have left of Jason. It's why I came to the event tonight. I couldn't afford a ticket, of course, but I had to try. Being here, listening to you talk about the future of sustainable energy, it was like hearing Jason's dreams come to life. Elon's gaze softened as he looked at the cap. May I? He asked, gesturing towards it. David nodded, carefully removing the cap and handing it to Elon. As Musk examined it, he could see the wear and tear, the sweat stains, and the faded signature he had added earlier that evening. Jason was so proud when he got this, David said, a hint of a smile breaking through his somber expression. He wore it everywhere. After he passed, it became my most prized possession. It's my last connection to him, to the world he was so passionate about. Elon handed the cap back, a plan already forming in his mind. Mr. Marshall, I remember you from Jason's funeral. You were a strong man then, speaking with pride about your son's achievements. Life has dealt you a cruel hand, but I see that strength still in you. David's eyes widened slightly, a flicker of hope visible beneath years of despair. If you're willing, Elon continued, his voice firm and determined, I believe we can help you get back on your feet. Jason was part of the Tesla family, and by extension, so are you. We take care of our own. As David processed Elon's words, a mix of emotions played across his face. Disbelief, hope, and a touch of fear at the prospect of change after so many years of struggle. Elon leaned forward, his gaze intense. Mr. Marshall, I have a proposition for you. David's hand tightened around the Tesla cap, his knuckles white with the intensity of his grip. Someone with your background and capabilities shouldn't be living on the streets. I believe we can help you get back on your feet, but it's going to take commitment and hard work on your part. Elon Musk leaned back in his chair, his mind racing with possibilities. The man before him, David Marshall, had once been a successful financial analyst. Despite the years of hardship etched on his face, Elon could still see the intelligence and capability that had made David successful in his former life. David straightened in his chair, a glimmer of his former professional demeanor shining through. "Mr. Musk, I'm willing to do whatever it takes. I've been lost for so long, but being here tonight, hearing about the work Tesla is doing, it's like a part of me has woken up." Elon nodded, a plan already forming in his mind. "Here's what I propose, a position at Tesla, honoring Jason's memory and his contributions to our company." David's eyes widened in surprise, but before he could speak, Elon held up a hand. "However, there are conditions," Elon continued, his voice firm but kind. "First and foremost, you'll need to commit to alcohol addiction therapy. Your recovery has to be your top priority. Secondly, there can be no more gambling. We're offering you a chance to rebuild your life, but we need to know you're fully committed to making positive changes." David nodded solemnly, understanding the gravity of the opportunity being presented to him. "I understand, Mr. Musk. I've known for a long time that I needed help, but I never had the resources or the hope to seek it out. This is more than I could have ever imagined." Elon turned to Natalie, who had been quietly taking notes throughout the conversation. "Natalie, I need you to start preparations for Monday's paperwork. We'll need to set Mr. Marshall up with our HR department, arrange for addiction counseling through our employee assistance program, and find him temporary housing." Natalie's fingers flew across her tablet, already coordinating the necessary arrangements. "Of course, Elon. I'll get started right away." Turning back to David, Elon's expression softened slightly. "Mr. Marshall, I want you to understand that this offer comes not just as an employer, but as someone who respected your son and who believes in second chances. We're not going to let you return to the streets. Until you can stabilize your finances, we'll arrange for an apartment for you." David's eyes welled with tears, the full impact of Elon's offer hitting him. "Mr. Musk, I don't know what to say. This is so much more than I ever dared to hope for." Elon studied David's face, noting the lines of hardship that years on the street had etched there. An idea struck him. "Mr. Marshall, how old are you now?" 50, David replied, a hint of self-consciousness in his voice. Elon nodded thoughtfully. "You know, given what you've been through, if you'd prefer, we could look into early retirement options for you. It might be easier than jumping back into a full-time career." But David's response surprised him. Straightening up in his chair, a spark of determination in his eyes, he shook his head. "No, Mr. Musk, I appreciate the offer, but if you're willing to give me this chance, I want to earn it. I'm only 50. I have years of work left in me, and I want to rebuild my life on my own terms. I want to work towards my own retirement, to live a modest, peaceful life in my old age. If you'll have me, I want to contribute to Tesla, to be a part of the vision that my son believed in so deeply." Elon couldn't help but smile, impressed by David's resolve. "That's the spirit, Mr. Marshall. We'll start you off in a position that matches your skills and experience, and we'll provide any necessary training to bring you up to speed on our current systems and processes." As they continued to discuss the details, Natalie's efficient planning began to take shape. She outlined temporary housing arrangements, therapy program options, and the necessary employment paperwork. The room buzzed with purposeful energy as this impromptu rehabilitation plan took form. David sat there almost in a daze as his life transformed before his eyes, from homeless and hopeless to having a job, a home, and a future in the span of a single evening. He clutched his Tesla cap, running his thumb over the worn brim, feeling as though Jason was somehow present, guiding this miraculous turn of events. As the conversation wound down, a knock at the door interrupted their planning. Chris entered, his face glowing with enthusiasm about the event's success. The room's atmosphere changed with his arrival as he announced the positive response from attendees, fans, investors, and media. "Elon, that was brilliant," Chris exclaimed. "The way you handled that unexpected moment on stage, people are calling it the highlight of the evening." Elon shook his head slightly. "Chris, it wasn't a PR move. I was sincerely trying to prevent Mr. Marshall here from leaving. There's quite a story behind his presence tonight. Chris's excitement dimmed slightly as he took in David's appearance and the serious atmosphere in the room. "Oh, I see. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to interrupt. I just thought, well, it was a powerful moment, intentional or not." As Chris settled into the conversation, Elon suddenly remembered something. He reached into his pocket, retrieving the carefully wrapped broken tooth. The small package drew everyone's attention as he handed it to David. "Mr. Marshall, I believe this belongs to you," Elon said softly. Chris watched intently as David unfolded the paper towel, revealing the tooth at its center. "How in the world do you have a man's tooth?" Chris asked, his voice a mixture of confusion and concern. Elon replied with just a smile, waiting for David to tell his part of the story first. David held the tooth gently, a pained expression crossing his face as he remembered the events that led to this moment. He took a deep breath and began to explain. "Earlier this evening, before the event started, I tried to enter the VIP parking and entry area," David said, his voice steady despite the difficult memory. "I was desperate to find a way in, to see Mr. Musk and maybe, I don't know, reconnect with some part of my son's life, but the venue's security guards, they didn't take kindly to my presence." David's hand unconsciously moved to his jaw as he continued. "They were rough, punches, kicks. They made it clear I wasn't welcome. I left, but I couldn't give up. It felt like my last chance to honor Jason's memory somehow." Elon's expression darkened as he listened, remembering how beaten up David had looked when they first encountered each other outside. "After Mr. Musk went inside," David continued, "the same guard came back. He dragged me away from the entrance and, well, that's when he punched me in the face. Hard. I felt something loosen in my mouth, but I was too dazed to realize what it was at the time." Chris listened in horror, his earlier excitement about the PR moment completely forgotten. That's assault. We need to identify that guard immediately." David shook his head. "I don't want to cause any trouble. I shouldn't have been there in the first place." "No, Mr. Marshall," Elon interjected firmly. "What happened to you was unacceptable, regardless of where you were supposed to be. We'll deal with that security issue internally, I assure you." David nodded gratefully before continuing his story. "After that, I managed to slip in with the crowd when they opened the main doors. I hid in a restroom stall until things quieted down. When I came out to wash my face, that's when I realized my tooth had fallen out, and that's when Mr. Musk walked in." Elon picked up the narrative. "I found Mr. Marshall trying to clean himself up. He ran out before I could say anything, but I noticed the blood in the sink and the tooth. Something told me it was important, so I wrapped it up and kept it." Chris marveled at the story, shaking his head in a mixture of awe and disbelief. "Well, if you're helping him, Elon, make sure to give him a new tooth. Or better yet, a whole new set to replace any he's lost over the years. He lost this one trying to attend our event, after all." Though Chris's suggestion was delivered with a touch of humor, his intent was serious. Elon nodded in agreement, adding it to the mental list of ways they could help David. "Mr. Marshall," Elon said, turning back to David, "I want you to know that what happened to you tonight is not representative of how Tesla treats people. We'll make this right, starting with proper medical and dental care." David's eyes welled up with tears again, overwhelmed by the kindness being shown to him. "Thank you," he managed to say, his voice thick with emotion. I don't know how I'll ever repay this kindness." "You can repay it by making the most of this opportunity," Elon replied firmly. "Honor your son's memory by rebuilding your life and contributing to the vision he believed in." Chris, who had been listening intently, suddenly spoke up. "Elon, I want to hear the full story of how this all unfolded from your perspective. Why don't we continue this conversation over drinks? Mr. Marshall, would you care to join us?" The invitation marked a significant change in David's social status, bringing him from the streets to the company of business leaders in a matter of hours. David looked at Elon, unsure how to respond to such an unexpected offer. Elon nodded encouragingly. "I think that's a great idea, Chris. Mr. Marshall, would you like to join us? We can continue our discussion in a more comfortable setting." David hesitated for a moment, acutely aware of his disheveled appearance and the stark contrast between himself and these successful businessmen. But the warmth in their eyes and the sincerity of the invitation gave him courage. I don't know what to say," David stammered, his eyes glistening with unshed tears. "This morning, I woke up under a bridge, and now—" He looked at Elon and Chris's friendly expression. I would be honored," David replied, his voice steadier than it had been all evening. "Excellent," Elon said, standing up. "Natalie, could you make arrangements for us at our usual venue?" As they prepared to leave, Elon's security team fell into formation around them. The group made their way back to the VIP parking lot, the same location where David had faced violence earlier, now welcoming him as an honored guest. The irony of the situation wasn't lost on any of them. Chris arranged to meet them at the venue while Elon, David and Natalie climbed into the Tesla limousine. As David settled into the plush leather seat, the contrast between his current situation and where he had been just hours ago was staggering. As the limousine pulled away under the twinkling city lights, David clutched his worn Tesla cap, a tangible link between his past and the unexpected future that was now unfolding before him. The city's gleaming lights seemed to promise new beginnings as they drove toward their next destination. Elon turned to David, his expression serious but kind. "Mr. Marshall, I want you to know that this is just the beginning. The road ahead won't be easy. There will be challenges, both personal and professional. But you're not alone in this journey. We're here to support you every step of the way." David nodded, his voice steady as he replied, "I understand, Mr. Musk, and I'm ready. For the first time in years, I feel hope. Real hope. I won't waste this chance you've given me." As the limousine glided through the night, carrying them towards a future bright with possibility, the events of the evening settled into a new reality. A chance encounter had led to an unexpected reunion, which in turn had sparked a journey of redemption and renewal. For David Marshall, the night marked the end of one chapter and the beginning of another. For Elon Musk and Tesla, it was a powerful reminder of the human stories behind their technological innovations. And for all of them, it was a testament to the transformative power of compassion, second chances, and the enduring strength of the human spirit.